So before we get started with this spotlight, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get this joke out of the way right here and now.
Look at my horse is amazing, give it a lick.
It tastes just like raisin.
That is what you get for trusting in me. Shame on all of you. This is the Heroes of the Storm Heroic Spotlight, and today we're looking at Lunara, the daughter of Cenarius.
The forest does not need protection, but you do.
Okay, so, real talk guys, the reason this video has been so delayed, the reason why basically all of my videos have had a delay really, is because I just haven't felt inspired, and it's been like that for about 2 weeks now. The Uther Spotlight barely made my deadline, and since then I've just kind of drifted into other games. I sat down and played some Telltale stuff, and I got myself hooked into the sickening black abyss that is Stardew Valley. Even I can't explain my fascination with this one. This is usually not the kind of game that grabs me. But to try and re-energize myself into my spotlights, I decided to try and tie this new hobby into this week's hero. After all, Lunara is all about nature. It's right there in her passive. Right beside the part that talks about poisoning people to death. This simile really collapsed in on itself, didn't it? So yeah, Lunara's passive is Nature's Toxin, and it makes it so her basic attacks and damaging abilities inflict poison to her targets, dealing additional damage over the next 3 seconds. Further attacks will pump the duration further, up to a maximum of 9 seconds total. Basically, this means trading with Lunara will just about always work out in your favor, as even running away from her doesn't mean an end to her damage. It's in your best interest to try and hit each enemy hero at least 3 times during a fight because, as I said, this applies more dots.
More dots.
The best part of this passive is how many talents you can synergize to it. You can use it to help reveal enemies, or generate health if you're down a healer, or even deal more damage to enemies that are slowed, which you can also do. In fact, even if you choose not to spec towards it at all, your passive will still do its job just fine. As you level up, that poison damage is going to rise, ensuring the other teams either have to avoid you entirely, or just burst you down before you can kill them, which would be harder for them to do if you didn't have such a wonky movement trait. I mean, maybe I'm on my own here, but I kinda hate Lunara's movement. It just feels off. Since this girl has legs for days, she doesn't mount up like other heroes. Instead, she has a passive movement ability known as Dryad Swiftness. This allows her to move 20% faster with short hops, although for the life of me she doesn't feel any faster. Like with most things, this probably comes down to my own suckiness with her, but I'll be damned if I can get any maneuverability out of Lunara. But at least I know how she should wear pants! It's this one, right? Her Q is Noxious Blossom. After a 0.5 second delay, Lunara causes a small pollen explosion in the targeted area, dealing moderate damage and stacking her passive on any enemy's hit. Now this is your main attacking ability, so get used to working around that delay, and practice trying to hit as many enemies with it whenever you can. So fun fact, I didn't actually own Lunara before this video, but I owned a skin for her, and this is one I bought long before loot boxes were ever a thing. See, I don't really care much for her default look, but this Sentinel one just looked adorable, and I knew sooner or later I'd actually want to play as her. It was a rare moment of foresight for me. But the more I look at her skins, the more I kinda realize she's lacking that crucial badass one. The one you pick when you mean business. I don't know, maybe if they gave her a hat, or made her a llama, then we'd have something. Crippling Spores is Lunara's W, and it's quite the interesting ability. You can only activate this once your passive is active on an enemy, and upon activation, this increases the duration of Nature's Toxin by 3 seconds. More importantly though, is it grants the afflicted enemies a 40% slow that decays over the next 3 seconds. This slow is where Lunara's kit really starts to come together. Her Q can proc her passive, allowing her W to then slow them and keep it going. Since they're slowed, you can easily toss out a few auto attacks and keep the damage piling up even further. If the fight suddenly turns against you, Crippling Spores can be essential in granting you an escape, making pursuers too slow to readily chase you down, or perhaps even enabling you to kill one before fleeing from the rest. Really, the key to Lunara's W is just knowing when to use it. I try to avoid using it solely to up the duration of the toxins and instead focus entirely on the slow itself. Wait until someone tries to run and then activate it, giving them a nasty surprise when suddenly they're neck deep in poison and still miles from their base. Even better is using it to give your allies more time to position themselves before a fight, and with your E, you should have plenty of visibility to plan out such a maneuver. Her E is Wisp, and if vision wasn't so damned important, I'd swear this ability was a waste of space. This creates a small wisp for you to place somewhere on the map, where it will fly to slowly from Lunara's location. Once it's been activated, the wisp can be redirected to a new spot for better coverage. This ability can be insanely useful, but you have to be actively aware of its presence. Don't just throw it out willy-nilly or to some spot in the distance and forget it exists. Use this to scout out an area your team is heading towards, like an objective or a camp, or to scout out a checkpoint or an enemy encounter before they can get the drop on you. If there's only one way from the enemy base to where you are, leave it nearby so you have some kind of a warning. Even if that warning is just your wisp suddenly vanishing, you know when to get out of there. Now, at the start, your wisp is very slow and dies in about one auto attack, but mercifully there are ways to fix that. In fact, even if you hate this ability, the game all but forces you to use it in some way, as Blizzard has made all of Lunara's level 4 talents deal exclusively with her E. They give you options such as a faster wisp, or a no mana wisp, or even one that can split and provide double the coverage. Choose whatever one works best for the current map and make your peace with it. Your team might well be counting on you more for vision than for damage. But then, what about her damage? Her basic kit only has one ability that even deals any. Well, that's where her heroics come in, and thankfully, no matter which one you choose to take, you'll have a new damaging ability at your disposal. The first is Thornwood Vine, which grants Lunara 3 charges of a long-range skill shot. It hits all enemies in a straight line, dealing moderate damage to each, and, of course, it also procs your passive. Use it to outpoke enemies that, by the time you've reached level 10, are already actively avoiding getting anywhere near your poison, or to finish off weaker ones trying to flee under your slowing spores. Her other heroic is Leaping Strike. This one grants Lunara 2 charges instead of 3, but enables her to do a huge leap over an enemy, slowing them by 80% for 0.35 seconds and dealing high damage in the process. Because of its high damage, this quickly becomes Lunara's easiest way to secure a kill, but not without its own set of risks. The leap can just as easily carry you into the target's teammates or over a wall, and unless you can leap back just as quickly, you won't live to regret it. On the other hand, this can also be used to put you in a better position, like if an Artanis lands a nasty switch on you, simply jump back towards your friends and maybe give them the finger in the process. Why not? Whichever way you go, the best way to look at Lunara's heroics are not as ultimate abilities, but more like extensions of her basic kit. They have such short cooldowns, and paired with tiny mana costs and charges for each, they function closer to basic abilities than end-all be-all finishers like with other heroes. Just don't get into the mindset of saving them as teamfight cornerstones, and you'll do just fine with either. As far as synergies go, Lunara works best with any heroes who can keep an enemy pinned down, if not destroy them entirely. Look for allies with a lot of slows or blinds, anything that keeps them disabled while your poison does its work on them. Remember, without your heroics, you don't have the most damaging kit, so your poison is still going to be your best trump card. On the other hand, she does have a fair share of weaknesses. Since most of her damage is poison-based, at least in the early game, heroes who can remove it will be trouble, and others with abilities like Ice Block or Parry or Tracer's Recall can just shrug it off entirely. You also have to be aware of your own movement speed. On maps where objectives can spawn far away from lanes like Cursed Hollow or Warhead Junction, you need to be even faster in getting there. Otherwise, your team will be at a big disadvantage. Either way, Lunara is worth a look just for the fun factor alone. I'll admit I had no desire to play her when she first came out, and I'm still struggling to fully understand her kit now, but she offers enough of a difference in gameplay to ensure a unique experience. There's such a smug feeling of accomplishment to see an enemy hero run behind their wall, only to drop dead anyway because of your poisons. It makes me feel like a scumbag, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy every second of it. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Again, I feel like I need to apologize for the delay on this one. I think I just burnt myself out with making so many of these in a row. Hopefully the worst of it is over, but just in case, I want you all to bear with me. I could force these out a little bit faster, but then they'd totally suck. And nobody wants that, right? As always, feel free to drop me a line over Twitter or Facebook, or leave a comment down below so I know what you think. My Discord channel is always open to new people, and hey, maybe we can even get a game in or two sometime. But until then, I'll see you in the Nexus.